Do you accept yourself as you are? Just all the parts of you that you have. Can you accept them? Can you accept your lot in life? Can you accept where you are right now? This is something that I've had a very hard time with, particularly around accepting who I am, who I kind of was made as in this life. So if that resonates, I'm going to be getting into my experience with that and what we can learn from the frustration we might have with who we are. My name is Adam. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Before I get into this, I just want to let you know I am doing a call on July 28th. It's a somatic release energy clearing on self-worth and confidence. This is a very powerful, transformative group clearing. It's very low cost. So there's a link in the description below if it calls to you. There's a recording that you get of the session, whether you do it live or not. So you can do it as many times as you want. It's just something I'm starting now with these offerings. My whole life, I've had a hard time just being okay with who I am. I've never felt like I was enough, honestly. I never felt like I was good enough. I never felt like I had the abilities and skills that I wanted, or actually that I thought that I should have. Remember when I was about 5 years old, I was in preschool, and one of my first friends in preschool was a bona fide genius. He was an actual genius. And one day, the preschool teacher actually asked him, his name was Sam, he had these giant glasses already at 5, to talk to the class about how he learned to read, because he had already learned to read at 5. No one else in the class knew how to read. Nobody else even cared that he knew how to read. They were busy stuffing He-Man and Rainbow Bright action figures up their buttholes. They didn't give a shit about this. But he proceeded to lecture everyone. Not in a condescending way. He just explained. I remember him being like, well, so what happened was when I was 2 years old, I sat down with my mother to read. And you have to understand that this isn't something that you just learn overnight. It takes practice. It takes discipline. It takes daily activity. And then within 2 weeks, he knew how to read because he was a freaking genius. I remember looking around the class at everyone in there. And everyone was just like, whatever. They didn't care. I was envious as fuck. I was so envious that he was a genius. Now, I guess I was smart enough because he chose me as a friend, which was cool, but I wasn't a genius. And this has been a recurring pattern in my life. Everywhere I've gone, I've never been able to do what I want to do. I've never been able to just accept who I was. I've always felt sort of like if you want to get metaphysical about it, it's almost as if my soul and my body are like polar opposites. And I was put in a body that can't do any of the things that I feel like I can do. So I've always had this how come I can't do this? And how come I can't do this? And how come I'm limited in all these ways that I feel like I normally am not limited in. When I played baseball, I always wanted to be a home run hitter, and I wasn't. I never hit home runs. I was the guy who bats second in the order, which is the person that would bunt. They'd always ask me to bunt. So a bunt in baseball is when you just tap the ball and they throw you out, but the guy on first goes to second. It's basically like the sacrificer. It's like the martyr for the team. I wanted to be a singer. I was a really good guitar player, but my voice was never quite good enough. I wanted to be a comedian in high school. I was a good, serious actor. I wasn't funny. I didn't have a good voice. I couldn't hit home runs. It was no matter where I went, I just could never be the role that I wanted. And what this led me to do was a couple things. One, to be really frustrated with who I was. To be very sort of self-hating. I also always wanted to be very verbal and very communicative. And I was basically silent. So that was another thing that I didn't have. And I would look at all the people that could, talk in conversation like this and tell stories and be the center of attention, and the people who could sing and the people who could make everyone laugh. And I would just feel envy and left out. I don't know if you can relate to this. And so I spent most of my life kind of in this battle of like, I don't like who I am. What can I do about it? And what it led me to do was, it led me into drugs. It led me into heroin addiction. It led me into cocaine addiction. It led me into 9 years of hell and then 2 years of rehab where I was so damaged I couldn't even function. But when I got out of rehab, I made this commitment to myself to be the best version of myself that I could. I was like, there are all these things that I want to be, all these things that I want to become, and I am going to do everything that I can to get there. I don't care what it takes. I kind of knew deep down underneath the surface that what I really wanted more than anything was just to feel at peace for who I was. That's why I did heroin. Because when I did heroin, I didn't care anymore that much. I didn't care about getting a record deal. I didn't care about paying my bills. I didn't care about getting rejected by girls. I didn't care about any of that. I was just happy as I was just in the moment. And I knew that's what I really wanted. But I also had all these other parts of myself that I wanted to express because that's what we're here to do, really. So I made this commitment. I was like, I know that by doing heroin, I was cheating. I knew that by doing heroin, I was kind of like, it's like if God is $100 million, like heroin is $100 million in a credit card, okay? You get it up front and then you go into debt and you have to pay it back. It's not really yours. So I decided I was going to earn it. I decided I was going to do everything that I could do to become that person. And so I took my addiction. I took my addiction energy, my heroin addiction energy, my obsessive compulsive sort of neuroses, and I channeled it into self-development. And I became obsessive about bettering myself spiritually. I spent a couple $100,000 as a broke person over many, many years, and this included support from my parents on healers, on supplements, on diet, on herbs, on meditation, on everything that I could. I would spend hours a day journaling about my emotions and my thoughts and my beliefs, like all day, every day for years. And I wouldn't stop. And I became obsessive with like healing my body, with getting more vitality, with getting stronger, with getting smarter, with getting quicker on my feet. I started to do stand-up comedy about 12 years ago. And all along the way, I never got any of the results that I wanted. Everything went really, really slow. Everything was really hard. Every level, every layer, it would be like this arduous journey into hell and back, and the external progress would be like half a centimeter. And it was really frustrating. And it's been really frustrating. It still is frustrating, even though I've gotten better and better and better at all the things that I want to be good at. I've been infuriated with how slow things have gone. I've been infuriated with all of the things that I have not been able to do as a human that I feel like I should be able to do. And one of the things that I've learned is, one, that I set it up this way. That the lesson in this whole experience that I've outlined just briefly is that I did not match, if you want to talk about it metaphysically, with the human body that I've had. It's been a drastic mismatch because my lesson has been simply to learn how to love myself as I am, regardless of anything. And that the trick to bettering yourself, the trick to improvement, the trick to everything, the trick to creating your own reality is accepting reality as it is. It's accepting yourself as you are and the reality around you in each moment. We all want to create our own reality. We all get into visualization, manifestation, and that's fine. But no one wants to accept reality as it is. And if you can't accept reality, you can't create anything. I never wanted to accept the rules. I never wanted to accept the rules of our society. I've had problems with the corruption in our system in every single way. I've been so angry by it. I've spent so many years like railing against it and wanting to change it and wanting to change everything around me and myself. And it's okay to want to do that. But as I've learned to accept, and I am learning to accept just who I am, that friction between who I am and who I want to be starts to dissolve. And I've started to feel better. And little by little, I've learned how to love myself regardless of any result that I get, regardless of any even self-improvement, because self-improvement is a good thing. It's good to want to be the best version of yourself. But when the wound underneath is telling you you have to be a different person because you're not good enough as you are, that can become an endless trap too, and an addiction. And what I've learned is that there's always someone better. There's always someone further along. And there's also always somebody behind. And that the more I can appreciate what I have had, the more I can accept what I do have, the better it gets. The more I can look back on my past and see that in many ways I have had some of the things that I've wanted, just not in the way that I've wanted, the more I bring them into the now. And the more I'm okay with not having them and understanding that there's a reason why there's been this friction, the more I see my limitations and my restrictions as a gift. Because one of the limitations that I realized I had recently was, or one of the pitfalls to not wanting to have any limitations was this obsessive pushing to be better and better and better. Because some part of me wanted to be invincible. It wanted to be so good at everything that I never felt any pain. That was where a lot of this was coming from. And so no matter how much better I got at something, it was never good enough. And what that did is it kept leading me into like really difficult, challenging, fearful situations again and again and again. And that loop never completed because I couldn't accept that as a human, I have them. I can't take on everything. I would stay in really difficult jobs that made me miserable, and I'd have this sort of spiritual ego about it where I was like, if I was truly a perfect spiritual being, I would be able to drive for Lyft 11 hours a day and just be in bliss the whole time and never get angry and never get frustrated and never get bitter and never be ungrateful. That was me not accepting that I have limitations. I can't do that. I can't do it and be happy. I talk to so many people, I have so many clients that have this perfect spiritual being thing where they feel insanely guilty for every tiny little negative emotion they have, because how could a perfect, exalted spiritual being have those emotions? You're supposed to. That's what we're here to do. We're here to learn limitation. You're a limitless being. Not as a human, you're not. You're not. As a soul, as a spirit, you are. As a human, your energy's finite. Now, it's tricky because most people think they're more limited than they are. And we tend to err on the side of like, I can't do that when you can. And so then we don't take action. But you also need to understand that you have limitations and it's okay. You're going to get angry. You're going to get afraid. You're going to get fucked up. You're going to flip out at God and tell him, her, it to go fuck itself. Sometimes. Maybe you're not. I do. And then you can get over it. It is what it is. And I kind of hate that. But it is. And in order to get to that point, you have to go through the anger and allow yourself to be angry and allow yourself to be afraid and allow yourself to screw up and allow yourself to make mistakes and allow yourself to fail and allow yourself to succeed. And when you actually accept your limitations, when you actually accept all of who you are, on the other side of that is magic. Because you can't find what you're truly capable of if you're always resisting and fighting with yourself, because you're just in resistance. That's what I realized. It's like if you sit down behind a wheel of a car that has a bunch of settings, or like a spaceship or something that has a bunch of settings. It's not like what you're used to. And you're just like, fuck this, I hate this. It's a piece of shit. You don't even know. You haven't even read the manual on how to use that particular car or ship or whatever it is, because you're so used to something else. And so all you are going to have is problems. This applies to who you are, your job, your partner, where you are in your life. It applies to everything. It's like, ask for the manual of how to use what you have as a person, as a mind, as a spirit, in your life, the skills that you have, the situation you're in. And when you surrender to that and embrace it, then you start to find the gifts, because there's no resistance. So anyway, I hope this message helped somebody. Please let me know if you got anything from it. Other than that, I appreciate the time, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.